Hi there, my name is Wade Murray. Welcome to the Great Green North podcast, the podcast where we talk about everything about lawns with a Canadian twist. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. All right, welcome to what I think is actually episode 9 of the Great Green North podcast. My name is Wade Murray, and for those of you who are new here, this is the podcast where we talk about everything to do with lawn care, Canadian lawn care. We answer some of your questions, we give updates of what's going on in my lawn, and, we give some tips and advice along the way. So if that sounds like a great idea to you, it's a subscribe button. Share it with your friends and family. If you're on a podcast platform, please give us 5 stars and leave a review down below. That helps a lot. So without further ado, I guess it's been a while. This would be the May-June episode, I guess, of the Great Green North podcast. Let's talk about what's been going on in my lawn and what I've been seeing around a lot lately. So what I've been seeing specifically in my lawn is, just to kind of summarize, I guess, some weather talk. To begin with, we had a dry-ish spring. It was relatively dry. There was this weird heat spell in the middle of April that kind of screwed a whole bunch of things up. And then we snapped right back to cold, and then it was wet. It rained. It was like a month's worth of rain, first week of May. Rain nonstop. It was like 8-9 inches of rain in a week, which is a lot of rain for here. And then the temperatures kind of never really recovered. And then after that, I started to notice a little bit of yellowing, some things. And that was when I kind of started to notice regularly around a lot that there was a lot of disease coming in my lawn, in neighboring lawns. And I've seen, some of our parks have just been destroyed this year by brown patch, gray leaf spot, all those kind of, springtime diseases when the weather is transitioning, because we had such a prolonged period of kind of wet, damp conditions that just kind of led to a perfect storm of disease this year, which is like a little bit unfortunate because we haven't really had a really bad disease year in years. So there's lots of people, wondering what's going on. But I did get hit pretty hard in the front with disease this year. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then kind of after that wet period, we went into a sustained dry period. So it was about 3 weeks of no rain, high 30 temperatures, really hot, a little bit of humidity. It came and went. The wind the week was brutal, though. So for those of you who don't know, with evapotranspiration rates, or the amount of water you lose out of the soil every day, the wind kind of helps draw that water out. So the windy days were brutal. And then after that wind kind of subsided, we just actually went back into what has probably been the rainiest mid-June I've ever had in my life. So on Monday, we had 60 millimeters of rain, which is like 2.5 inches of rain. We've had another inch of rain today. We got another 2 to 3 inches coming before the end of the week. So this has been a really, really wet week. A lot of rain. Again, still fighting that disease pressure. I've noticed disease popping back in again. But for those of us, it was so hot for that 3-week sustained period that a lot of people's lawns began to check out, and now they're kind of checking back in. But I'm seeing this kind of weird, not really wanting to grow, kind of growth habits going on a lot because of this weird back and forth weather that's been going on. So let's talk about maybe specifically my lawn. So my lawn, the front lawn that is 100% treated liquid this year. That's a new thing that we're doing. It's doing pretty good. It's seed head season as we call it in May. So all those seed heads are coming up. So for those of you who don't know, basically May is kind of the season where your lawn begins to reproduce. It begins to create seed heads and seed stalks, and those stalks are what you see coming up in your lawn around this time of year, and it kind of gives that like white glazed look to it. And they got those big thick heads and those thick stalks, and they're really hard to cut down with your lawnmower. The reason why they're hard to cut down with your lawnmower is because the stalk for the seed head is significantly thicker than the stalk or than a grass blade. So it dulls your mower blades. It gives the lawn a really bad texture and look because you got all these like thick seed stalks kind of hanging in the grass. They begin to die out, and then they all kind of go brown, and then your lawn kind of has this brown cast to it. But basically, what that is that's your lawn attempting to reproduce. So your lawn has been pollinated. It's ready to grow. It's ready to spread new seeds and reproduce now. And I guess there was a question I was asked by my neighbor a couple weeks ago. I was going to cut her grass, and she was like, "Oh, do you think we should wait until the seed stalks finish developing so it can oversee my lawn for free?" Now, this is kind of like a myth or something that a lot of people don't know, but most grass seeds, their seeds are sterile. So if you've ever been to an actual grass seed farm, the plants are big. And by big, I mean 2 feet by 2 feet and 3 feet tall, and they're planted spaced just like a cornfield. And because they need that room to grow and develop and become healthy enough, to actually produce sterile, good producing seed. Now, the other thing is some of those grass seeds that are popping up, they're not always the most desirable grass. So there's kind of different categories of weed. You have your broadleaf weeds like dandelions, clovers, and other things like that. And then you have your grassiest weeds, quackgrass, crabgrass, Poa annua, Poa trivialis. Technically, a weed is any flower or plant that's not in a place where it's desired, which for a lot of us, Poa annua that comes in the spring is most definitely a weed. So if you are letting some of those heads reseed themselves, you might end up reseeding some of the grassier weeds that you don't want to reseed. So that's why it's a good idea just to keep cutting those off. I would bag the clippings at this time. They're so heavy and thick that they're just not going to mulch up properly. So if you can bag, go ahead and bag those clippings during this kind of grassy stage. But that stage is pretty much wrapped up for the most of us. So on the front lawn, I'm still seeing some of that, lagging left after the seed heads. It takes a lot of energy for the plant to create those seed heads. So I've been trying to give it a couple doses of fertilizer, and it's been getting better, but I'm still seeing a little bit of lagging and a little bit of browning out just from all those seed heads. Another thing, I got 2 problems that I'm tackling currently. We got hit really hard with gray leaf spot this spring in this front area. I don't know specifically why this area. I've never had it in this area in the past, and this area does get a decent amount of sun. It's up near the top of the house, and it does get a decent amount of sun. I don't know if it's poorly drained soil. There used to be a big tree in this area, and the tree has since died and been cut down. So I know there's a lot of roots and decay going on in that soil. But anyways, there was a large patch of gray leaf spot in that area, and I think some of it too is my neighbor has some trees planted for privacy, and we have some trees planted for privacy, and that kind of bottlenecks some of the airflow in that area, and I think that's also causing some of the disease problems that are sprouting up. But anyways, really bad gray leaf spot, thinned out that entire area, lasted almost a month at least. So what I did to try to calm it down was, I tried to remove the clippings at that stage. Once I thought that the gray leaf spot had kind of run its course, I did some light raking to remove the thatch or the diseased, dead diseased plants out of the grass. But I did not do the raking while the spores were still on the plant. That's a no-no. You don't want to spread those spores around. Similar to when COVID was a thing and someone would sneeze on your hand, you go wash your hand. You wouldn't rub your germs over anything else. It's the same thing when you're trying to treat a disease. So making sure that I address that, clean that out. So we're slowly starting to thicken back up again, and continuing with the doses of liquid fertilizer, which is helping. But another thing is we are getting the landscaping redone in the front of the house this year, which means that all that is going to get torn up by machines in probably the next 2 months, and it's all going to be reseeded. So that's going to be a project coming up for the fall. Full reseed on the front yard. We're going with the GrowForge seed, and then we're going to see how that takes. But that is a project for the fall, not for now, but it's good to have it in your head. So that's the front lawn. All in all, the liquid program's still working really good. I've been going at it every 2 weeks with the suggested schedule from GrowForge, and everything's working out great. It's actually growing better and more vigorously than the back is, even though it all the disease and all the other problems it's had. It just needs to get a little thicker. And I did notice similar from the granular to liquid in the front. The liquid does take longer to kick in the spring. So the back, as soon as I hit it with that granular, it was boom, ready to go, growing like crazy, mo. The front, I kind of hit it. It started to go. I hit it again. It kind of started to go a little more. And then, around that third or fourth application, that was when it was, really starting to pick up at the same time that the back was starting to die down. But now the front's going strong. It hasn't slowed down, but the back has slowed down. And that comes to the back. So let's talk about the back, what's going on in the back. The biggest issue that I'm currently having in the back right now is clover. I don't know what happened this year, but the white clover in my area has been mad. It's been rampant. I've heard that white clover has been bad this year in general. I know Alan Hayden, the lawn care nut, was complaining about white clover in Florida, which I didn't even know that it grew all the way down there. The white clover has been really bad. So next week, when all this rain stops, we're going to pull out the backpack sprayer and we're going to take care of all that white clover, nuke all that out of there. Because that's driving me nuts. Nothing that drives me more nuts than sitting inside the house and looking at all those big patches of white clover. So we're going to be taking care of that. It's not really a major invasion, but there's big patches here and there that we got to take care of. And then there's some white clover in the front as well, but mainly it's a big issue in the back. So getting to the back is looking really good. I did an initial fertilizer application of a 3008 first thing in the spring. And that was just because the back did not get any nitrogen last fall, not by an intention, but just by of pure busyness and running out of time. So the back got really good kickstart in the spring. A lot of the seeding projects I did kind of in the more shady areas at the end of the year last year are looking really good. I'm really happy with the way that they're taking. The irrigation system got ready to go. We're trying a new irrigation schedule, which we're going to talk about a little later in here when we get to the irrigation part. But the back's looking really good. Another thing is just still recovering from those seed heads. So I'm seeing a lot of brown kind of stalks left as those stalks slowly die off. We're pretty much done for seed heads here in my area, or getting there hopefully. Back's really good, really thick, really healthy. A lot of the vole damage I had filled right back in, no problem. As soon as I spray out this clover, we'll get an extra boost of nitrogen from when the clover dies. Because the interesting fact about clover is a nitrogen fixing plant, and that's why there's a lot of micro clover encouraged to grow in some of the more eco-friendly lawn sod solutions. However, there's two things that are bad about clover. A, it's not very traffic tolerant. So it lays over, it snaps, it's very thin, especially in high traffic areas. It just full out dies. And then the second thing about clover is it's a nitrogen fixing plant. So clover actually pulls nitrogen out of the air into the plant itself to hold it. And a lot of people think that that's really good because it's going to help pull nitrogen out of the air and put it in the soil for their grass to access. But no, clover is kind of a bully, and it hogs all the nitrogen for itself. So the nitrogen it pulls out of the air does not give into the soil for the rest of the stuff around it. It hogs it for itself until it is killed. So once it is killed, it will release that nitrogen back into the soil. So whenever you kill clover, you normally get a little boost of nitrogen into the grass around it to help the clover thicken back up again. And that's, because of that nitrogen fixing aspect to it. It's releasing that nitrogen back into the soil. So that's a good thing to know about clover. Important detail. So the back looking really good. Next steps for the back, we are going to be switching the back to a liquid program for the summer, just because of the challenges with irrigation and stuff like that. I want to try to keep pushing it. And in years past, I've kind of let it go for the summer, not put a lot of fertilizer on it, but with the amount of irrigation, like it is fully irrigated, and fully irrigated 3 months without fertilizer, the lawn starts looking pretty lime green, getting pretty stressed. I've had enough. It needs a little bit of a jolt of food. So we're going to be trying to switch to the liquid program again. That app has been delayed just because of all the rain. But as soon as the rain calms down here, we'll get that app on, and we'll take a look at the before and afters of that liquid program, and hopefully we can reap the benefits of that liquid program, as well as some of the wetting agents and humic we're going to be putting down in the back to hopefully try to help retain that water a little bit better, so we can get a better usefulness of the water within the soil, so the drought tolerance will be a lot better back there. The side yard is the side yard. It's actually looking not too bad right now, considering all the POA and other crap that's in there. It's a mess. It's going to be killed and reseeded this fall finally. But the side yard is the side yard. The GrowForge products are still doing an amazing job, considering that it's basically just salad at this point. But where we're gonna make that work, we're gonna fix that up this fall. That will be another full series. Will be the side yard reno. All right, so yeah, some of the things, as I said, I'm seeing a lot of disease. I'm seeing a lot of white clover. For those of you who are in the neighboring area, or those of you who are around the same temperature zone as I am, May, June is grub season, and that gives us a good opportunity to talk about grubs. So, without further ado, let's get into the questions. Let's kind of get into the more tip segment of the show. Now that we've given you an update of what's going on my lawn. Quickly. Update on the plots will be coming up after the break. So let's just take a quick break, and then we'll get to that. The Great Growth Podcast is brought to you by GrowForge Liquid Fertilizers. If you are interested in purchasing GrowForge Liquid Fertilizers, you can check them out in the link in the show notes below, and you can use code GGN23 to get 5% off your order at checkout and support the channel at the same time. Now, without further ado, back to the podcast. All right, so update on the plots. So for those of you who don't know, I planted 6 lawn plots about a month ago during the first really big rain spell. And they came in really nice. Germination rate was about, I saw first seedlings coming up in 6 days, and then pretty much everything in 21 days was all up and ready. They're fully established now. Well, not fully established, but they're thick. They've been mowed. They get mowed about every week. There are 5 plots of the GrowForge grass seed blend, and there is 1 plot of the Scott's Elite seed blend. We're going to be testing the GrowForge seed versus the Scott's seed through drought tolerance this summer. If we actually do get a dry summer, which it looks like we may not, but we'll find out about that. So we're going to be testing that on those plots, as well as we're going to be testing some of the different color effects of different GrowForge applications. So they've just been established. They all got TNT starter, except for the one control plot didn't get anything done to it. Then we're going to start applying straight line and balance line to each individual, to 2 plots each. We're going to see the color difference between the two, how well they go. We're going to apply the TPA wetting agent and the humic to 1 plot, but not the rest. We're going to see the drought tolerance difference between those plots. And overall, I just want to see color, texture, and how I like this seed blend before I plant, almost 8,000 square feet of it in my lawn, which is the plan in the fall. So overall, with the plots, they're looking amazing. I'm very excited about the texture, the quality of the seed. Everything came out really quick. It's really thick. It looks great. I'm really happy with the way it looks. And we're going to keep plowing ahead to the fall, when we actually get to do the renos with this seed. So I'm really excited about that. Plots are looking great. We're continuing the testing. There will be an update video here coming out very soon about the plots and how everything's going on with the plots and the project lawns. Now, I still haven't really done a full introduction to the project lawns. The one project lawn is the one that we're focusing most of our time on. Dave's lawn, just down the street from me. His lawn is a standard homeowner's lawn, who wasn't really into lawn care. It was fertilized, hasn't been fertilized in at least 5 or 6 years. It's a small postage stamp lawn, probably only about 20 feet by 30 feet. And we've been treating it bi-weekly Same as what happened with my lawn. 2 applications of the TNT starter in the spring, and then right back to the GrowForge applications. Dave did a little minor spring reno. He put down some seed in some thin areas he had, and he's going to see if that took. We're going to go there next weekend or this week, and we're going to see how everything took. We're going to do another application. We're going to film a full video there. And then that project intro will be released, kind of everything from the spring all the way up till now, how it's improved. And then we're going to keep improving. We're going to do a full fall reno in the fall, and we're going to see how well established we can get Dave's lawn. So definitely stay tuned for that project lawn. It's going to be, kind of a couple of videos broken up here. We're just trying to get enough content so the first video is detailed enough. But definitely stay tuned to that. Dave's lawn is a great test to show how GrowForge products do not only have to be for lawn care enthusiasts such as myself, but they can be for anybody, such as anybody who is just looking to get into lawn care. Liquid fertilizers are always an amazing solution. So without further ado, let's get into a couple questions. So for those of you who don't know, you can submit a question to me at my email, growforge@gmail.com, or you can submit a question through my website through the request, or you can also leave comments on my YouTube videos, and a lot of times we answer those questions here. So somebody asked a question about grubs. Where was it here? So I can't find the exact question here, but here it is. So, hey, I'm a fellow Canadian from Ontario. I've been following your content closely, but haven't come across anything about treating grubs in Canada. Not sure if this is something worth covering or making a video on. Unfortunately, we don't have access to the quality stuff like they do down south. I was wondering if you had any tips or tricks up your sleeve on grub control besides the Canadian grub be gone, which doesn't seem to work. So, first of all, what are grubs? Grubs are the larvae of Japanese beetles. So Japanese beetles, you know them. They come about in August, and they like to eat your flowers. If you have rows of Sharon plants, Japanese beetles love those flowers. They eat those flowers, and you'll see them everywhere. So what is the life cycle of Japanese beetle? Japanese beetles Japanese beetles start as a grub. They're laid in about late September, and then they hibernate over the winter as a grub. Now in the springtime, they hatch. They feed as a baby grub. Most of their feeding is done May to June, and then they hatch as a Japanese beetle for July and August. Then they're laid back in your lawn. They do a little bit of feeding before they go to sleep for the winter, and then they will hatch the following spring. So May, June is when you're going to be seeing that grub damage begin to show. And how do you know it's grubs? Well, there's 2 ways to tell. A, do you see a lot of Japanese beetles around your house? And if you do, that's a sign that the grubs are probably in the neighborhood, whether they're at your lawn or your neighbor's lawn. The grubs are probably somewhere around. It's good to keep that in mind. You notice a Japanese beetle, probably a grub around. You notice a lot of moss, probably a sod webworm problem. It's kind of 2 things to keep related that way. B, if you're noticing brown patches in your lawn that are forming a pattern, so in a sense, they started from one singular small patch and is slowly spreading out from there. Now, when you walk up to that ground patch, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to grab the leaves of the plant, or what would have been the leaves of the plant, and you're going to pull up on it. Now, if it pulls up with no root, then you definitely know you have grubs or sod webworm. Something is eating the roots of the plant, and that's why when you're pulling it out, there's no roots. Now, as soon as you pull out that grass and you notice that there's no root, it's time to begin to look for grubs. And grubs are not going to be in the damaged areas because they've already finished their feeding there. They're done. They're going to be in the areas next to the damaged areas where they're beginning to feed, beginning to make the damaged area larger just for you. So you're going to start digging around there, see if you can find some grubs. As soon as you find a grub, then you know that you have grubs. Now, ways to treat grubs. If you're in the United States, you're going to be looking for a pre or post grub control. Your pre-grub control would be imidacloprid, I think is what it is, or in Scott's Disease X. You can put that down as a preventative or a post emergent control. The other option is 7SIVEN. That is a all insect, grub, ant, chinch bug. All those things are controlled by 7. And then if you are in Canada, there's 2 options to treat grubs. There's nematodes. Now, I know a lot of people don't really have tons of success with nematodes. They're worth a try if grubs are becoming a problem for you. Another option is the Scott's Grub Begone. I personally haven't tried the Grub Begone myself, but I have heard some people have mixed reviews on it. Again, worth a try. Another thing, and I know it's not a great thing to say, but you can call a company and get them to come out and treat, call True Green or your local lawn care company, and ask if they can come out and treat for grubs. Sometimes they have access to the stronger chemicals to help treat grubs. There's another option as well, and this is a last case resort, but if it's a really concentrated area, what you can do is you can dig out the grass, dig out around, and you can check, as you're digging, pick some of the grubs out and then resod that area. And that will help repair the lawn as well as remove the grubs yourself because you physically remove them. I know it doesn't sound like an amazing solution, especially if you have a large area that's been attacked by grubs. But if you're like me and the odd grub kind of problem you have is only in small concentrated areas, 4 or 5 rolls of sod, it's easier just to pluck them out, replace them, and call it a day. So that is obviously a solution. You do need to stay on top of it. Make sure that you are watching for those grub infestations, because grub can easily turn a beautiful lush lawn into a brown lawn in about 6 months. So watching out for grubs is something that's very important. Next, we have a comment on my videos about liquid versus granular fertilizer. Now, I don't know if I didn't make it super clear in this video, but I had a lot of comments talking about how granular fertilizer is cheaper per pound and will give you more instant results. That is very true. Granular fertilizer per 1,000 square foot is probably cheaper than liquid fertilizer. However, they are 2 completely different programs, and I do believe I highlighted in this video. Granular is good for a hard hit of growth in the fall when you're trying to push a lot of nitrogen. Granular fertilizer is really good for that. But however, in the spring and the summer, when you're looking at trying to do some more spoon feeding, you're not trying to push the lawn too hard because it's already stressed or anything else like that. That's when that liquid fertilizer comes in extremely helpful. Extremely helpful. Here's a quick question here. Can I mix humic and baseline together? They're referring to the GrowForge products. You can mix any of the GrowForge products together in the tank at the same time. As long as you follow the suggested application rates, you'll be more than safe. What else do we got here? We got, how can I get rid of Creeping Charlie without chemicals? Now, there is a couple ways to deal with this. Find the source of the Creeping Charlie. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from a neighbor? Is it coming from a garden? Is it coming from the street? If it is coming from a neighbor, a good option would be to maybe put some sort of physical barrier between your house and your neighbor's house to stop the Creeping Charlie from invading. Creeping Charlie is a very, very relentless weed, and the simple over-the-counter weed control, you're going to need to do a lot of apps to keep that at bay. So whether that's putting in some of those plastic guarding edging, or putting in a literal 1 foot strip of river rock or gravel or something like that, you can make it incorporated into the landscape, but having some sort of physical barrier to keep that Creeping Charlie from invading your lawn really helps. That's kind of a non-chemical way to do it. I know that some of those large broadleaf weeds, if you boil a kettle of water and pour it on them, that can kind of help stunt them a little bit. Again, I know you said without chemicals, but when we're talking about chem solutions, Fiesta, 2,4-D, dithiopyr will all treat Creeping Charlie, as well as quinclorac will treat Creeping Charlie. We got another question here about seed germination. Can you use foliar fertilizer to aid in seed germination, or is granular better for starting? Now, I'm assuming that they are talking about liquid and granular. You can use liquid fertilizer at the time of seed germination. So when I seeded with the test plots, I sprayed liquid fertilizer right on top of the soil as soon as the seed was down. There's no problem with that. The fertilizer will get absorbed into the soil and go up into the grass. Granular fertilizer works as well too. Either way, the fertilizer is going into the soil, not into the plant, because the seed is yet to be germinated, but it will be utilized with the plant once it does germinate. So liquid or granular at the time of seeding is perfectly fine. Another question with the GrowForge products. I really rather not get a tank sprayer. Can I do a liquid program with a hose and sprayer? Um, there are liquid programs with hose and sprayers, but the GrowForge products don't recommend hose and sprayers. There's the kind of the difference between a tank sprayer and a hose and sprayer. A hose and sprayer has a lot more dilution because of the amount of water flowing through it. Think about it when you're using your GrowForge sprayer, or when you're using a backpack sprayer, you probably put 4 gallons of water in it, and you're putting that over 4,000 square feet. If you're spraying 4,000 square feet with a hose end sprayer, you're probably using, 10, 20, 30 gallons of water to put that out. So the dilution's a lot heavier, so you're not going to get as heavy of an app through a hose end sprayer. The other thing that is a little difficult about fertilizer applications through a hose end sprayer is that the accuracy, not creating striping or anything like that in your lawn is very important when you're applying fertilizer. And the accuracy through a hose and sprayer can be a little more tough than the accuracy with a backpack sprayer with a fan tip. Another question here too. Maybe you can help. I bought a bag of GrowForge Premium Granular Lawn Fertilizer. I'm trying to find out the spreader settings. I have a Scott's EdgeGuard DLX rotary spreader. I'm tired of I tried emailing GrowForge and contacting their online support. So let's talk about how fertilizer is put down. So when you put down a granular fertilizer, it's put down in pounds per 1,000 square feet. So that's the pound of the pounds of fertilizer is being put down on every 1,000 square feet. So for example, if I have a 1,000 square foot lawn and I want to put a fertilizer applications down or an application down at 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet, then I'll need 3 pounds of fertilizer in the hopper, and I will go up and down over my 1,000 square foot plot of land until the spreader is empty, and that shows that I put 3 pounds down on 1,000 square feet. So I believe the GrowForge fertilizer does have a pound per 1,000 recommended on the back of the bag. I can tell you that for most of the Scott spreaders, 5.25 is about 3 pounds per 1,000, give or take a few. But all the spreader settings depend on how fast you walk, as that depends on how fast that impeller moves. They're all plastic spreaders, so the accuracy of how big those drop holes open is not really the most accurate thing in the world. So the best way I find to do it, especially if it's your first time, is kind of weigh it out properly. So for example, if you have a 5,000 square foot front lawn that I believe each one of those GrowForge bags covers 2,500 square feet. Put 2 bags in the hopper, set it to like the second lowest setting, and just keep going up and down over that section until you've emptied it. And then you can slowly keep dialing it up until you think you got a hang of it and you think you can cover your section properly, and that's how you're going to get the best application possible. It seems kind of archaic, it seems kind of backwards, but a lot of those Scott spreaders and a lot of the plastic cheaper spreaders, even some of the more expensive ones, they're not the most accurate thing in the world. And again, every spreader that is walked by a human is all controlled about how fast the human walks. I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'3", I got long legs. I'm going to walk a lot faster than my girlfriend, who's shorter than me. So that's kind of how this works when you're putting down the spreader application. So without further ado, let's talk about some other general questions that I think would be helpful to some of you all. Treating disease, as I talked about earlier, disease is something in Canada that is very difficult to treat. In the United States, get some Scott's Disease X, put that down, and you'll be good to go. But up here, unfortunately, it's not that easy. Again, call a company to treat disease. That's a great option. A lot of people don't really think about that option, especially if you're a DIY guy, but it is always an option. It might cost you a couple $100, but it's a one and done. They'll come spray and treat it. Another way, most of the time, is just to kind of let the disease run its course. So, on golf courses, right, there is thousands and thousands of hectares of land that is covered in grass, and in the end, really what they care about is the tee boxes, the greens, maybe the fairway. The fairway, the pristine stuff is the tee boxes and the greens. The fairways, and the rough is, yeah, we cut it once a week, we don't care. The amount of disease that can come into those courses on a regular basis from a wet spring like this, it's at the same scale as your lawn, except it's scaled up to the fact that it's a golf course that covers thousands of square feet. So think about that. There's no possible way they would be able to treat all of that disease. Maybe on a PGA course, probably on Augusta, but not on, your average golf course down the street. So what do? They control it with what they can control. They let the disease run its course, and they repair it after the fact. When I worked on the golf course, and anybody who's worked on a golf course, anybody who's played golf can vouch for this, the amount of divots in a fairway that get created every day by every golfer, it's thousands a day. And if you never ever repaired the divots, you let them run their course, eventually the whole fairway would be ripped up. So what they do is, they give your divot repair mix. You got your sand, your soil, and your seed mix. You throw that in each divot, and then the hope is that by the time a divot is made, close to the divot that you just filled, the one you just filled should have repaired itself. It's a never-ending overseed repair. Same as the tee boxes. Tee boxes get lots of divots in them because they're for teeing off. The divots, you slowly move the tee back over the course of the week. You start at the front of the box, you move to the back of the box. As you move back down the box, you keep filling the divots on the front of the box, and then by the time you move back to the front of the box, the overseed has repaired itself. This is the solution to this. Just keep hitting it with seed. That's how you're going to get it to recover. That's how you're going to get it to fill back in, and you're basically going to let everything run its course, and you're just going to keep trying to grow the healthiest, strongest turf you possibly can, and that's kind of the solution you have to approach when it comes to fighting disease in Canada. Let the disease run its course. There really isn't much you can do with it. If it is an area that, is constantly staying wet, you might be able to, if your irrigation system is running, turn it off in that area. Maybe try to, if you have a large fan, try to set up a fan, get some airflow moving through that area. If you have an aerator and the area is sitting quite wet, poking cores was not a bad idea. It might help open up that soil a little bit. If you have a lot of thatch, removing that thatch is not a bad idea either. Help open up the soil, let that area dry out, and let that disease kind of, calm down, finish running its course. But in the end, you do just have to let the disease run its course, let things play out the way they're going to play out. There isn't really much you can do about that. That's just the way it's going to be. So letting diseases run their course is something very important when it comes to lawn, or when it comes to Canadian lawn care. There's certain things you can control, there's certain things you can't control, and unfortunately, we don't have the capability, the products to control the disease, so we're just going to let it run its course. And this is something that I know Ryan DeMay were talking about too. Some of them, sometimes they let the disease run their course. If you don't use a pre-emergent, you're letting your weeds run their course. You're just going to let it finish out. You're going to repair it after. You're just going to know, oh, I know that area is a little thin. It's going to need a little bit more attention this fall when I do my reno. Or I'm going to do a mid-spring overseed to help fix that disease. I had early spring. Anything like that, just make your plan easy. And then that comes the next thing. It's time to make a plan. And I don't mean to sound like Ryan Knorr, but fall renovation season is coming quick, and it's coming faster than you know it. And I don't mean to make everybody upset either that says that the fall is coming, but it is coming fast, and it's coming quicker than you know it. And with some of the supply chain things that have been going on lately since, this pandemic became a thing, it is a good idea to always be prepared, have everything ready for your reno, because it will be here before you know it. So if you are doing a full fall renovation, we'll be talking about that in the next episode. But getting your aerator, getting your seed, getting your fertilizer all ready, getting everything all planned out, what you're doing, what you're doing where, what you're going to tackle certain problems with. Are you going to seed? Are you going to sod? All these things. It's good things to think about. What's your budget? Because budget in lawn care is always a thing that's not talked about a lot, but it is true. Lots of people have a budget of what they're willing to spend or what they have to spend on lawn care, and that dictates what they're willing to do. But if I could get any advice, if you're going to do a reno this year, purchasing a great grass seed is always the best way to start, whether that comes from GrowForge and supports the channel, or whether that comes from your local farm supply store or your local landscape supply store is a different story. But always getting the highest quality of grass will give you the best result. It's starting you off 3 feet ahead of everybody else in the marathon race that is growing turf. And having those extra 3 feet ahead from the beginning is going to allow you to end 6 feet ahead in the end. And that's just the way it works. A couple final thoughts here on kind of things that I wanted to touch on. We are heading into the warm season, and we kind of had a tease of it. And I know we're going to be talking about drought stress a lot on the next episode. But when it comes to drought stress, there's a couple things to take care of. A, it's just temporary. Don't worry. When the rain comes, your lawn will be green and healthy again, and it will thicken back up. No need to worry. Anybody and their mom can grow grass in May and June in Canada. It just happens. It grows on the side of the road. It grows like a weed. It grows in the parks. It grows everywhere. So don't worry if your lawn gets toasted this summer. Don't fret about it. Don't have sleepless nights over it. It's going to be fixed, so don't worry about it. If you are deciding to irrigate, it is something you need to stick with, so pick one way or the other. This is the time to make the decision. Am I going to irrigate? Am I not going to irrigate? And if you are not going to irrigate, I would suggest still doing some slight irrigation. A little bit of water every 2 weeks during an extended drought period can be the difference from your lawn surviving and greening back up in the fall and you losing significant portions of your lawn that needed to be overseeded in the fall. And in the end, a lot of people think water is expensive, but think about what you're going to spend on grass seed and aeration and all that stuff in the fall to fix your lawn, or you can just spend it over the summer to keep your lawn alive. And I know there's other watering restrictions and other factors all play into it, but that's just the way that I normally like to say it. So keeping your watering up. Speaking of watering, I mentioned this. So I'm doing a test in my back lawn. As I said, I live on probably the sandiest soil around. The soil in my area is silica sand, and it is pure sand, 4, 5, 6 feet down. It is all sand. So the problem I have with that is it drains very well in the spring, which means disease for me normally not a big issue. But in the summer, when I'm trying to save water, it also drains very, very well. So what I'm attempting to do is changing from my frequent watering to my changing from my deep and infrequent watering to maybe a little bit of a lighter, a little bit more frequent watering. So instead of I cut my watering by a third. So I'm doing about 2/3 instead of the full 3/3 that I was doing before. And I cut it from every third day to every other day. So it's a little bit more water in the end. But we're going to see if this makes a big difference. So far, in the week leading up to the rain we got, it seemed to be doing better. It seemed to be making a bigger difference, keeping that lawn healthy. But we're going to see. We're going to continue this test, and we'll give you an update in the next episode of the podcast. So without further ado, I think that's it for this episode of the Great Green North podcast. As we always like to say, successes and failures in the end. What did I succeed on? Well, this spring, I think I succeeded on starting off with a good plan, having everything organized, having everything ready. So when go time was good, it was go time. What did I fail on? I believe that I failed on getting more on top of the disease problem and that clover problem. I probably could have allotted a little bit more time to take care of that. But again, that's something that always gets away from us. It gets away from all of us. If you can't be out babysitting your lawn every day, you can't be out babysitting your lawn every day. Nothing to beat it up. It has happened, and we're going to fix it now. So from the Great Green North, my name is Wade Murray. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you're on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with your friends, share it with your family. If you are listening on your podcast network, please rate us 5 stars. Please add us, save us, download this episode, share it with everybody. We're trying to spread the word. We're trying to get Great Green North to grow bigger, and we want to spread the word about correct lawn care education all across Canada. So in the Great Green North, my name is Wade Murray. Thank you guys for watching. As always, leave your questions in the comments down below, or email them to me, greatgreennorthlawncare@gmail.com, and we will see you guys in the next podcast. The Great Green North podcast is written and hosted by Wade Murray. You can find Great Green North on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube. We have great lawn tips coming out, new videos every week, plus a new podcast episode every month. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on whatever podcast platform you're on so you never miss an episode. And if you're looking for more great lawn tips, make sure you go find us on YouTube, or you can check us out on our website, greatgreennorthlawncare.ca.